Hello, my dear Sitecore family. So we are back, and we are back with Chirag. So last episode was on CDP, basic terminologies, and this episode is about basic terminologies of Sitecore Personalize. So let's get started real quick. Chirag, thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's start with Sitecore Personalize. So as a product, as Sitecore Personalize, the first thing when I hear it, I know the word says it's for personalizing things for the customers.
Right.
Although from a technology standpoint, how do I really start off understanding and knowing the basic fundamentals
Right.
in Personalize?
Yeah. So Sitecore Personalize, as by word, it means like we are personalizing something, right? So personalizing can be like any type. Like if you want to personalize a hero banner component or personalize a journey depending on what kind of pages he are visiting, or personalizing something category to be moved to the top when he's visiting that category, right? Multiple times, and personalizing the menu. Like if you have a KFC chain, personalizing the menu to that customer on what he's buying frequently.
Okay. Yeah.
So the personalizing depends on your business need and then your use case, and that all business needs can be delivered and implemented in Sitecore Personalize using various methodologies.
All right. So what are the, like if you look at the methods, what are the various methods in which you can implement these?
Yeah. So basically in Sitecore Personalize there are two types in which we can do personalization. One is experiences, and on the other contrary hand is the experiments.
Right. Okay. So let's start with experience for that matter.
Yeah. So experiences are like if you want to like have a one variant, if you're like damn sure like this particular variant will meet your purpose and will satisfy your business need, right? So in that case, move ahead with the experiences, right?
Right. And experiment?
On the contrary, we have experiments. So when you are not sure like which variant will perform better, right? So it's kind of an A/B testing. So what we do A/B testing in Sitecore XP. So similarly, an A/B testing is achieved in Sitecore Personalize using Sitecore experiments. So when you're not sure about which variant gonna be performing better, so you can create multiple variants of the same requirement and see who is the winner at the end. Like which variant gives you more engagement or more interaction to your website, and that can be configured on the web experiment.
Right. And so it's just the difference between experience having one variant and experiment having
multiple variants.
Okay, not two. It could be multiple.
It could be multiple.
Right. So in that case, of course, there has to be some way in which, if you have those variants, there has to be some logic to. Is it random? How does that work?
Yeah. So like as you know, right? On A/B testing also, like 50% of the audience we used to do A/B like variant A, 50% audience B, and we can do some kind of categorization. Similarly, in Sitecore Personalize, we can categorize like how much audience will be exposed to this test, right? And which variant, like out of a variant A, we want like if you have a requirement, the variant A should be visible to 20% of the users, and variant B should be visible to the 80% of the users, right? So you can configure this bucketing. So in Sitecore Personalize, this is called bucketing. So you can set bucket numbers, right? So basically, whenever suppose I as a random user comes into your website, I will be assigned one random number which will be in the range of 1 to 120, right? And this number, and we can do personalization based on like if the number is less than 20, let's say 20, then you have variant A, and the number is greater than 20, let's say have variant B. So this bucket number, based on that, whenever like even if you come to the website, there will be a random bucket number associated to you, and then according to that bucket number will be in the range of 1 to 120, and then you can do the personalization depending on whatever the bucket range you want to have.
And this experiment, like in Sitecore, I would like to compare with Sitecore XP only here, because we used to have like a duration wherein we can run the A/B test, and then we stop it, and we used to have results on a dashboard. So
similarly, like we can configure the goal, right? So basically, whenever you are configuring an experiment, you are like advised to configure the goal dashboard, right? And then we can configure like what kind of goals we want to have, and then we can configure like which kind of goal would be like the winner of among all those goals which we configure, and then accordingly the winner will be decided on that basis of goals.
Right. Cool. Sure. So, but I mean, I could be wrong here, but I think A/B testing, yes, it is useful in cases, but generally when we talk of personalization, I think 60 to 70% of the times we know what exactly we want to personalize and what we want to show. So is that a correct assumption?
So basically if we want to personalize a hero banner, right?
Yeah.
And we want to have different kind of images, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, you know what kind of images you need, right? So in that case, we can go ahead with experiences. So in that case, no need of experiment, right?
Yeah.
So most of the scenarios which I have dealt with in the real world projects have been dealing with experiences.
So well, let's go ahead with experiences in that case. When we look at experiences, what are the type of experiences you can configure for the?
So basically, like whenever like we are configuring a web experiences in Sitecore Personalize dashboard, we have three types of experiences which we come across. One is a web experience. Second is the triggered experience, and the third is the interactive experiences.
Right. Can you elaborate all three?
Yeah. So web experience is like if you want to have a say a pop-up or a sidebar, something whenever like you want to show some kind of offer to that particular user, and with basically a custom HTML or CSS you will need to show that pop-up, definitely, right? And that HTML you don't want to integrate on your website, rather than this HTML and CSS should be coming from Sitecore Personalize, so that pop-up complete HTML, that control is on the Sitecore Personalize, and that pop-up itself, like based on whatever like condition you want to have, like whether this pop-up should be visible to particular user or not, and that pop-up will completely get rendered from Sitecore Personalize to your website.
Right.
So this is a web experience.
And is this web experience, can it be utilized even on a mobile app or no?
Yeah, definitely it can be utilized on the mobile app as well.
Alright. Next one, I think you mentioned triggered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second one is the triggered experiences. So triggered basically depends like on your use case. So what, for example, a guest was added, right? Or basically it's kind of a trigger based on some kind of event happening, and you want to trigger an experience, like full stack experiences. So for example, like most of the scenarios what we have seen is like when the session is closed, right? We want to send all the events, all the like points he has collected, want to send like whatever like kind of pages and what kind of journey he have visited and what kind of points he has collected throughout the journey, right? In that particular session, we talked about the session in the previous session and CDP. So all the points that he gathers in that session, and you want to collect that sum and want to send it to on the session close to some CDP. We want to store it as a part of a data extension. Right. So what we can do is we can have a trigger on the session closed, and then set this property of the number of points. Like suppose I'm visiting a category A page, right? And I collected around 50 points on that, and my session got closed. Then this 50 points gets summed up to my Sitecore CDP data extension, right? And then
So sorry. So technically, triggered is something wherein it gets triggered based on something.
Some kind of event.
Right?
So it can be a session closed or some kind of event you executed, or some, for example, your cart got abandoned.
Yeah. Very
realistic case, right?
Yeah.
So your cart got abandoned and you want to send an email on that, right? And because you want to notify, like because this cart was abandoned, then what you can have a listener onto this abandoned cart event, and then email will be sent on of all the items that was abandoned.
Yeah.
Right? So that he gets notified of all the items that were abandoned, and then he can take the necessary action.
Sure. I think the third one was.
Third one was the
interactive.
Yeah, interactive experiences. So interactive experiences, like if you want to have a dynamic data displayed on your website from Sitecore Personalize, right? So in case like your dynamic data can be you are getting like based on some decision, right? Based on some decisioning, you want to fetch like if suppose my distance, like suppose take an example, right? My current location, I am in Delhi location, right? And I want to show a banner for I am a like Mahindra, like my car, my website deals with Mahindra, and I want to have in that location, whenever the users are visiting in Delhi location, I want to have banners related to Delhi for the cars. So that dynamic decisioning and that dynamic data and that dynamic data to be get it from Personalize, we can use on the interactive experience. So basically what it will return the JSON. It will not return, in the web experience we got the HTML.
Yeah.
But in this case we will get the JSON from the Sitecore Personalize to your website. So similarly, like if your user is visiting Mumbai location, right, and you want to get the banners from Mumbai, so you can get the dynamic JSON data computed from the decisioning to the Sitecore website.
Got it. So in this case, so it could also be that this JSON data that we receive, we can then fire it back in a CMS or maybe an external system and get more, specific to that particular CMS maybe. So technically you can store that data or the content, you can manage it in a CMS, like say XM Cloud for that matter.
Yeah.
And then, from here you just take that JSON, fire it in the CMS and then bring out the data.
Yes, most of the scenarios are like, we want to get the because data will be like coming from your Sitecore CMS website, right? Most of the time. So what we can do is like, and we want to personalize that hero banner, right?
Yeah.
So we can connect from the Sitecore Personalize to Sitecore XM Cloud or any kind of Sitecore CMS,
right,
and get the hero banners, and then to kind of return only those hero banners according to your category which you have, like Delhi, Mumbai, or whichever location you have.
So this category thing that you mentioned, so you can do kind of like an if-else condition or a flowchart or something.
Yeah. So basically, this is the crux of complete decisioning. So the decisioning, I would say, is the heart of Sitecore Personalize, right? So in that, what happens is, like, if you want to compute any kind of logic, right? Like if you want to know the category of that person based on the past events he was doing, right? So all that logic you can write in the decisioning. You can write, this is called on terms of Personalize, programmable decisions.
Okay.
So these are programmable decisions which you can write, and then you can return those conditions, and then get out of the data you can create a decision, and then the decision can be used to return offers.
Okay. So two things here. Decisions, so you can basically read some properties from somewhere.
Yeah.
And the second thing you mentioned is offers.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead with both these things.
Yeah.
Which properties and how can you read those properties?
Right. Yeah. So basically, decision is basically like what you like have. Like if for my scenario, I am in Delhi, right? I want to return that hero banners. I'm in Mumbai. I want to return that hero banners. I'm in some other city. I want to return some other hero banners.
Correct.
Right. So I want some kind of decision table, right?
Yeah.
Because I cannot write if else, right, for all these managing conditions.
Absolutely. That will do much to handle.
Too much to handle, right? We cannot write a JavaScript code for this, and if we write a JavaScript code, that can be a buggy and some error can be thrown. So all this condition managing we have in Sitecore Personalize the decision table.
Right.
Okay. So and on this decision table, we can use multiple inputs. It's not only about city. If you want to have other column, right? If city is Delhi and in distance is less than 10 kilometers, I want to show something, right? And you can have another column. City is Delhi, distance is less than 10 kilometers, and my language is English.
Oh, okay. So you can add multiple, and all these are they AND conditions or OR conditions?
Yeah, these all are AND conditions, your IN conditions, and then you will have the output.
Got it.
Yeah. So on the output, as you mentioned, offers. So on the output, you usually returns offers. So offers is nothing. It's basically a kind of templates. So what all data like we used to store in Sitecore CMS is mapped to offers in Sitecore Personalize.
Okay, I'll take a little while to process this because see, all these are composable products, right? So of course, first of all, for a decision, let's say I'm using the property of a guest. I believe that is the correct assumption, right? Like we have the guest in CDP, and then where that person is, based on that we are taking a decision that the person is in Delhi, the person is in Vadodara, the person is in Mumbai. Based on that, we are taking a decision and we are providing an offer.
Right.
Now, how does that offer that you are mentioning is linking with the XM Cloud data? I know it can go from website, so from website to XM Cloud, but then how will it travel from Personalize to XM Cloud? I would like to know.
Yeah, so basically you configure your decision model, everything is done, and you have returning the data from Personalize. Now what you need to do, you need to call this full stack experiences on your website. So web experience, on the contrary, you don't need to configure anything. It just depending on your filter, whatever audience filter you set, it will return.
Okay.
But in this case, whenever you're configuring a full stack experiences or interactive experiences, or which returns a JSON data, so you need to call these interactive JSON experiences on your website. Maybe basically on your page load or some kind of event, you want to have this JSON populated, right? So or even if you're in mobile app, right, and you want to get some banner notified, right? So you can call this interactive APIs at that time, and depending on your page load, and you can get the data from.
So how can we call this experience?
So basically, if you're using an engage library, there's a method for trigger experiences.
Okay.
In the trigger experiences, you can pass your whenever you create a full stack experiences, there's a friendly ID associated with it.
Got it.
And this friendly ID you will call in that function and will get the JSON data.
Okay. Now let me connect the dots. So basically what you're saying is that let's say there is a library, Engage SDK, which I will integrate in my website code.
Yeah.
So is it like a node package or something?
It's kind of a like any like Next.js is provide integration. It provides integration with React.js.
Okay.
Even if you are not having this kind of library, you can use REST APIs as well. As we mentioned in the CDP session.
Yeah.
So we have these are the stream APIs. Even if you are not like if you're in a mobile app, right? You can't use the stream APIs.
Yeah, correct.
So in that case, you're going to be using REST APIs to call those interactive APIs.
So similarly, in REST API, you will be providing the ID of that particular experience. So that
friendly ID we're going to be providing, and that using that friendly ID, you will get the JSON data returned from your full stack experiences, and then you can just use this data to manipulate whatever. Like if you want to show this category at the top, or some menu item, there are like multiple menu items, you want to rearrange it, right? So you can do that.
So technically now, if I look at, let's say we are talking about banners. So let's continue talking about banners. You have a home page banner, and then you have page specific banners. Page specific banners are separate.
Yeah.
Right now, what you want to do is you want to personalize page specific banners based on specific categories on a geolocation basis. So you can do that. What you need to do is basically when you have that component development available over there, let's say it's taking next, so that this SDK can be used. I mean, we are considering a best case, but just clearing things out, right? So over there in that component, we'll say trigger experiences. So technically what will happen in that case is it will trigger the experience from Sitecore Personalize, which is an interactive experience on the website for the hero banner. Am I getting it correct?
Exactly.
All right. But for trigger experience and knowing that I need to connect with this particular instance of CDP and Personalize, what is used?
For trigger experiences, it's just you need to call an event.
I agree, but that is, I mean, there needs to be some configuration, right? To make sure that, let's say I have a sandbox, or I have one SaaS instance of CDP and Personalize.
So you need to do like whenever like you are integrating with Personalize, so you need to have a SDK setup, right? And then in that SDK setup, you need to provide your domain URL and the CDP key, API access.
Right.
So that two things should be there, and apart from that, like whatever like your point of sale you configure, like all these 4-5 things like which are there, you need to provide that so that your beacon gets initialized. Once your beacon is initialized, then we are all good to go with your trigger experiences or your web experiences. But your full stack experience, as I talked about, it needs to be called from your code.
Cool. Okay. So now when we are setting up a given experience, right? So let's say we are first of all configuring a variant. Right. So I believe all the three will have a variant, right? Like whether you say no, I think web will have a variant. Web and triggered will have a variant versus interactive will have a JSON return.
JSON return.
Right. So then there has to be some way of like decisioning is a part of that particular process or a flow. But then I want to make sure that this particular let's say experience is triggered only on a given category and not all the categories.
Right.
So can we do that?
That's a common kind of scenario, right? In like we have created a web experience or a full stack experiences, but I don't want to show that full stack experience or web experience to all the users, right? So in that case, there's a third option which is available, which is called an audience filter.
Right.
Audience filter, what it basically does, it you can basically make sure like to only that particular category of users, right, by which satisfy your business rule or marketing rule, only that should be visible. So you can configure the audience filter using basically there are two types of audience filters conditions. One is runtime, which is basically on your real world data, and then it makes that decision. And one again, it provides another option of batch segment, which we discussed on the CDP session.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the batch segment, if the benefit of using batch segmentation is it is already processed. It is already.
So it will be quick.
It will be quick.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're doing calculations on the real time, right, it will be little delayed. It will not be delay might not be visible on your local, but when the website becomes production ready, right, where there are multiple of sessions, multiple of events, and then you are traversing those events to find that particular category, right, in that case this real time decision can be a little performance oriented. We need to take that point in mind. In that case, batch segmentation would be because it is already computed. But yeah, like there's one caveat to batch segmentation, as you know, as we discussed in the last session, it gets computed nightly.
Yeah.
Right. So there are like pros and cons associated with two approaches. Both these approaches, we need to make sure whatever satisfied our best our use cases.
So I mean, we cannot put it. I mean, yes, we can kind of put it as a best practice that have a batch segmentation being done, but then for some conditions the user would or our client would want that his website deals in being as interactive and as easily decision making on real time data as possible. Right. But then I think it is better to discuss with the clients that how it might affect the performance and how it could be better that yes, it might not be as real time as possible, but then still things will be personalized.
Things will be personalized, and it would be like it depends on your use case, right?
Yeah,
if you want to have time of day personalization, right, that at a particular time the user is visiting and you want to show something, right, you can't go with batch segmentation, right? So in that case you need to have real time.
Right. Okay, great. Can these experiences be assigned to any goals or anything?
Yeah. So basically, whenever so the fourth point, whenever you configure an experience, first you configure whatever variant you need.
Right.
Second, you configure getting the data from decision model and then returning. The third thing you configure is the audience filter, which we discussed. The fourth thing we configure is the goals, because on the real when we publish the experiences, we want to see, right, what is the user engagement on each kind of activity which we are returning. So if we don't set up the goals and we just publish the experience live, it does not mean any use case.
Correct.
It will not return any kind of statistics to you. So you need to set up the goals when you are moving on production. Right. So these goals can be any, like my event was clicked, you can add the goal for that. My session was closed, you can add the event for that. Or my cart item was added, any kind of event, but make sure you add the goals so that you get whenever this experience runs over 3 months or 6 months, you get the data analysis of what kind of goals are, what kind of events are engaging more to the user.
Okay. So in CDP we discussed about the interactions persisting for how many days? 90 days. And while the data extension data persistent for lifetime. In this case of these goals and all, how is that data persistent? How much long is that data persistent?
The goals are nothing. Goals are basically it's kind of events only, right? It's just you are tracking which goals, basically which events are getting triggered more. Okay, so there is no data consistency associated with goals. Right. Goals are nothing. They are just events which you have configured to be mapped for deciding the winner.
Cool. All right. So again, experience. Then we have audience selection. We have decisioning. We have goals.
Yeah.
What next?
So once you configure, basically this is the crux. On Personalize, you configure the experiences and you will return the data. And most of the scenarios, what you do is you configure the data in CDP, Personalize itself. right? You don't want to go to Sitecore and do some data changes and then return the data. So in Sitecore Personalize, right, we can store the data.
Correct.
So that data is stored in the form of offers.
Right.
Offer templates, which is there in the library. You can create a template. So basically, it's similar to templates what we create in Sitecore CMS, but there are some kind of limited types.
Okay.
It does not provide complex types such as drop link and all those stuff, but it can be stored for string, number, and all those primitive data types that can be stored. And that primitive data types we can create. Once we create the offer templates, then we can create the offers, and then we can return these offers in the decisions.
Okay.
Once these offers are returned in the decision, then we can return those offers from the web experiences.
All right. Cool. Well, in cases wherein, let's say I don't have Sitecore CDP, but I have some other CDP, can I still use Sitecore Personalize?
Yeah. So this was another requirement also we received recently, in which customer was not having some data stored somewhere else. In Sitecore, they have some kind of other CDP, and they were just you wanted to use Sitecore Personalize. So this is what the composable means, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If we say that we cannot, we need to use Sitecore CDP only, then that does not make sense.
It defeats
right?
the purpose.
It defeats the purpose, right? So so there are we can connect from any kind of CDP and do the personalization. So you need to
Sorry, please go on.
you need to make a connection, right?
Yeah.
You need to make sure there's some REST APIs or some APIs some APIs are available to fetch the data from that CDP to personalize to make those decisions.
Perfect. So technically what it means is similar to CDP, like when we had the audience export or audience sync to send data from CDP out, we used to have connections, right? And you can connect external systems to it.
Yeah.
Similarly with Personalize also you have same connections.
Yeah. In the connections are different. It will be going in the connections only, but this time it will be data system connections.
All right.
It will not be external connections. It will be data system connection you need to configure. So whenever you are working on decision models, there's a connection which you need to establish, and that connection needs to be established through the data system.
Okay. So let's say it's a data system connection. Let's say I have a CDP ABC.
Yeah.
I have all my data built into that ABC CDP.
Yeah.
And I know it is done very nicely. It's well architected. So I don't want to buy Sitecore CDP, but I do know the power of Sitecore Personalize, so I'm buying it.
Yeah.
I'll connect that ABC CDP with my as a data system connection.
Yeah.
And then I will use that where in the decision
model.
Okay.
Because
so technically, instead of the guest property, I would be having the data system property as an input.
Right.
Okay. To take
because
the decisions.
that's because whenever you're working on CDP, you will be having guest dot something, right? But when you are making a connection to data system, so data system will also expose an object in the same format, not in the same format of guest, but it will expose an object, and you can use that object to read whatever data extensions you have or whatever properties you have in your external CDP.
And technically, because we say that it needs to be a RESTful API where you can fetch. So by fetching that data from that data system, you basically get JSON and access its properties over here and take it forward.
Basically, whenever you access those properties in your data system, that properties are available out of that data system.
Yeah.
Then you can use all these properties again, that what we discussed in the programmable decisions. And then if you can use this property in the programmable decisions, then you can simply make a decision table and return the data from that.
All right. You mentioned about Engage SDK being so. What if my application is not using advanced frameworks like Next and React? In that case, because then in that case, let's say I have a simple HTML website or an MVC based website wherein I do not have these packages and stuff available. Can I not use Sitecore Personalize on CDP?
No, you can definitely use that, right? Because as I told, right, you can go either with the REST APIs, right? Because these are the normal REST APIs that you can call from your JavaScript XML HTTP request object, right? So you can configure that. Even if you not using REST APIs, there are although it is replicated, there is a boxable legacy packages.
Also.
So you can, that's a normal JavaScript you can integrate, and that you can add in your MVC layout whenever you are working on that, right? Because it's just a script that needs to be added and some properties. So once that beacon is initialized, you can do what kind of stuff you need to have.
Sweet. All right. Well, what's remaining in Sitecore Personalize now?
I think like that should be covering all the aspects. Yeah. So, but we need to keep in mind, like as I told, when to work with experiences, when to work with experiments.
Yeah.
Right. That's a major criteria to start with experiences, and then make sure like you are getting the deciding whatever category you have, right, of the three. Basically, that's a starting point, and then you can make your decisions according to that.
Great. Well, Sitecore CDP and Sitecore Personalize are really great products, and it's great to see how architecturally they have been built so strong that they really fit the composable suite of Sitecore, and more importantly, not just theoretically but how realistically it can be used. And you can empower your clients to build out better connected experiences.
Yeah.
I think sky is the limit.
Yeah, exactly. You can achieve any kind of things you can think of. Like there's no limit.
Yeah. Well, I think that is it for the terminologies of Sitecore Personalize. And Chirag, thank you again for sharing your knowledge with us on Sitecore Personalize. And my dear Sitecore family, that was Chirag for you. Hope you enjoyed this episode as well of Sitecore Tech Talks, and hope you learned something new on Sitecore Personalize today.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode. Thank you.
Thank you.